Introduction. The prison of overthinking. Let me begin with a simple question. How many decisions today did you make twice? You decided, then you doubted. Then you replayed it again in your head. Overthinking doesn't look dramatic from the outside. There's no loud explosion, no obvious crisis, but inside your mind it feels like a storm that never stops. You replay conversations, you predict disasters, you analyze what people meant, what they think, what they might be thinking about what you think. And at the end of all that thinking, you don't feel clearer, you feel exhausted. Overthinking is not the same as being thoughtful. Thoughtful thinking helps you move forward. Overthinking keeps you stuck, while convincing you that you're being productive. What overthinking really is. Overthinking is your brain trying to feel safe by controlling every possible outcome. It's when your mind says, what if I fail? What if I say the wrong thing? What if this decision ruins everything? So you think, and think, and think some more. You review every angle. You search for the perfect answer. You don't want to regret anything. But here's the trap. The more you think, the scarier the decision feels. So instead of acting, you stay stuck and call it preparing. Overthinking slowly steals your peace, your time, your confidence, your ability to trust yourself. And eventually you start to believe, maybe something is wrong with me, but nothing is wrong with you. Your brain simply learned that worry feels safer than action. And like any habit, it can be unlearned. Why smart people struggle with it most. Here's something people rarely say out loud. Overthinking is often a problem for intelligent people. Smart people see patterns, they notice risks, they can imagine 1,000 possible outcomes. That's a gift, until the gift turns against you. Because when you can imagine everything that could go wrong, your brain tries to solve problems that don't even exist yet. You become a planner, then a worrier, then a full-time mental detective, trying to predict the future. The irony? The smarter you are, the more convincing your worries sound. They don't feel like anxiety. They feel like logic. But logic without action leads nowhere. A quick story. Let me share a simple example. A woman once told me she had been wanting to start a small online business for 2 years. She researched constantly. She watched videos. She compared platforms. She took notes, filled notebooks, planned launch dates. When I asked her what stopped her, she said, I just want to make the right decision. Then one day she saw another person, with half her knowledge, launch a similar business. And it worked. Not because that person was smarter, not because the plan was perfect, but because they started. Overthinking had convinced her that waiting was safer. But the real risk wasn't failure. The real risk was never trying. The promise of this book. This book isn't here to drown you in theory, brain science, or complicated psychology. You're already living in your head enough. Instead, this book will give you simple tools, short techniques, practical steps, real examples you can apply immediately. We're going to learn how to stop spirals before they take over, make decisions faster. Without fear, quiet your brain when it won't turn off. Let go of thoughts that don't deserve your energy. Trust yourself again. Not by becoming a different person, but by gently training your mind to work for you instead of against you. By the end of this audiobook, you'll understand something powerful. You don't control every thought that appears, but you can control what you do with it. And when you learn that skill, life begins to move again. You stop replaying. You stop doubting every step. You stop living inside your head, and you start living in the world again. So take a breath. Relax your shoulders. You don't have to solve your entire life today. Let's simply take the first step together. Let's learn how to stop overthinking your life, one calm decision at a time. Aries, Chapter 1 in The Brain on Overdrive. Have you ever noticed that your mind almost never says, everything is fine, let's relax? Instead, it whispers things like, did I forget something? What if I didn't do enough? What if tomorrow goes wrong? It's as if your brain has a job, and that job is to scan constantly for danger, stress, or mistakes. And in a way, that's exactly what's happening. Your brain evolved to protect you, not to make you happy. A long time ago, that protection helped us survive. It watched for predators, threats, and danger. But today, the predators are different. Emails, deadlines, relationships, money worries, social pressure, expectations. And your brain treats all of those the same way it treated real danger, by going into overdrive. The worry engine overthinking usually begins with one small thought. What if? Then your brain starts adding layers. Okay, but what if this happens? And if that happens, then what? And if I make the wrong decision, what will people think? Suddenly, you're imagining situations that haven't happened and might never happen. The problem isn't thinking. The problem is not knowing when to stop. Overthinking doesn't solve problems. It feeds them. It turns a small conversation into a crisis, a tiny mistake into a disaster, a normal decision into a life-changing gamble. And while your brain keeps spinning, your body reacts as if you are in danger. Tight chest racing, heart difficulty, sleeping restlessness, tension in your shoulders or jaw. This isn't weakness. This is your nervous system doing what it thinks it must do to protect you. Why your brain believes worry is helpful. When something bad has happened before, your brain remembers. It says, if I think hard enough, maybe I can prevent that from happening again. So it creates a rule. Worry first, act later. And sometimes you do avoid mistakes. Sometimes thinking ahead really helps. So your brain learns, see, overthinking works. Let's keep doing it. But the truth is, it didn't work. You worked. Your awareness, your courage, your effort solved the problem, not the endless worrying around it. Overthinking becomes like an overprotective friend. It means well. It tries to keep you safe, but it constantly warns you about dangers that aren't real. After a while, you stop trusting your own instincts. You trust your fear instead. The trap of control. Most overthinking comes from one simple desire. You want to control what you can't control. You want to control how people see you, how situations turn out, whether the future will hurt or not. And because the future is uncertain, your brain keeps working overtime. It says, if I think about it long enough, maybe I can make it predictable. But life doesn't become safer when you overthink. It only becomes smaller. You avoid risks, you avoid opportunities, you avoid conversations, relationships, changes, dreams. Not because they're impossible, but because they're uncertain. And uncertainty scares the mind. The cost of living in your head overthinking has a quiet way of stealing things from you. It steals time you never get back. It steals sleep when you need it most. It steals joy from the present moment. It steals confidence in your decisions. Sometimes it even steals relationships because you're so lost in what someone might be thinking that you forget to simply connect. You don't need more willpower or discipline. You need new skills. Skills for calming your nervous system. Skills for noticing thoughts without chasing them. Skills for deciding without needing 100% certainty first. That's what we're going to build step by step. A simple reflection. Before we move on, try this small awareness exercise. Think of one decision you've been delaying recently. A message you haven't sent, a project you haven't started, a conversation you keep postponing. Ask yourself, am I waiting because more information is truly needed or because I'm afraid of being wrong? There's no judgment in that question. It simply shows you where overthinking has taken control. Awareness is the first door out. Where we go next. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something crucial. Not every thought deserves your attention. You'll learn how to separate facts from stories, truth from fear, and reality from mental noise. Because once you stop believing every thought your brain throws at you, overthinking begins to lose its power. Let's keep going, one calm step at a time. Chapter 2. Not every thought is a truth. Overthinking begins with a simple mistake. We treat every thought as if it's true. I'll fail. They don't like me. I'm not good enough. These aren't facts and they're guesses. And when we believe them, our body reacts as if danger is real. We freeze, avoid, and worry without proof. Your mind is a storyteller. It tries to protect you by predicting problems. But protection is not the same as truth. Many of the stories your brain tells you are old, exaggerated, or simply wrong. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. A thought is just a thought. It's not a command. It's not reality. It's just something the brain produces, like clouds passing in the sky. The courtroom method. When a painful thought appears, don't fight it. Question it. Ask, 1. What is the evidence for this thought? 2. What is the evidence against it? I always fail. Sure, you failed before. Everyone has. But you've also succeeded, learned, improved, tried again. That means the thought isn't truth. It's fear talking. Balanced thinking beats negative thinking every time. Thoughts, feelings, and facts. We often mix these up. Thought, they're upset with me. Feeling, anxious. Fact, they haven't replied yet. Only one of those is certain, the fact. The rest is guessing, and the brain usually guesses negative because it wants safety, not accuracy. Name the thought instead of saying, I'm going to fail. Try, I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail. That sentence creates distance. You become the observer, not the prisoner of your thoughts. Old patterns. If you were criticized, ignored, or judged in the past, your brain learned to stay alert. Overthinking is your mind trying to protect the version of you that once felt unsafe. But those warnings are outdated. You're stronger now, and those thoughts deserve to be questioned. A quick exercise. Write 3 columns. Thought, feeling. Balanced truth. Example, I'm bad at relationships. Sad. I've struggled, but I'm learning and improving. You're not lying to yourself. You're being fair. The freedom you gain. Negative thoughts will still appear, but instead of believing them automatically, you pause. You ask, is this actually true? Most of the time, it isn't. And when you stop treating every thought like a fact, overthinking loosens its grip. Because the real truth is simple. You can't control which thoughts show up, but you can choose which ones you believe. And that choice is where peace begins. Chapter 3. Decision paralysis. Fear of being wrong. Overthinking often shows up in one place more than any other. Decisions. Big decisions. Small decisions. Even silly ones. What should I say? Should I go? Is this the right job? The right person? The right step? You circle the choice over and over. And the longer you think, the heavier it feels. This isn't laziness. It's fear. Deep down, the mind believes, if I choose wrong, I'll regret it, and it will be my fault. So instead of risking regret, the brain chooses something that feels safer. Delay. I'll decide later. I just need more information. Maybe it will become obvious, but later rarely comes, and life quietly moves past the choices you never make. Why decisions feel so scary? Your brain is wired to avoid pain, so before every decision, it asks, what could go wrong? How might this hurt? What will people think if I fail? It rarely asks, what might go right? What could I learn? What if this actually works? That bias toward negative outcomes creates paralysis. You wait for a guarantee, but life never gives one. The 70% rule. Here's a practical rule used by many successful leaders. If you have about 70% of the information, decide. Not 100%, not perfect certainty. Why? Because most clarity comes after action, not before it. You learn by moving, adjusting, correcting, not by sitting still and thinking forever. Waiting for perfect certainty is just fear dressed up as responsibility. Good enough versus perfect people who overthink often confuse two ideas. Good enough, perfect. Good enough moves life forward. Perfect keeps life on pause. Perfection promises safety, but it secretly costs you opportunities, growth, and confidence. Every decision doesn't shape your entire destiny. Most decisions are course correctable. You can learn, pivot, and try again. The 2-question test. When you feel stuck on a decision, ask, 1. What is the worst realistic outcome? 2. If that happened, could I handle it? Most of the time, the honest answer is, yeah, I could handle it, and the fear loses power. A short story. A man once said he spent 3 years deciding whether to start a podcast. He researched microphones, software, marketing, everything. One day a friend asked, "Why haven't you recorded the first episode?" He answered, "I want to make sure I start the right way." The friend smiled and said, "The only wrong way is not starting." He recorded. It wasn't perfect, but it improved. And within months, he wondered why he waited so long. Most of our regret doesn't come from mistakes. It comes from hesitation. Action creates clarity. Thinking feels safe, but action creates information. Once you take a step, you see more clearly what works, what doesn't, what to adjust. And each decision you make, even imperfect ones, teaches your mind. I can handle outcomes. I can trust myself. That is how confidence is built, not from certainty, but from courage. A simple challenge. Think of one decision you've been postponing, something reasonable, not life or death. Ask yourself, what would I choose if I trusted myself for the next 24 hours? Then take one small action toward that choice. Just one. Your brain will protest. That's okay. Act anyway, gently, thoughtfully, and notice something powerful. Nothing shattered. You learned, you moved, and movement is the antidote to decision paralysis. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to quiet the noise in your head when thoughts won't stop. Practical tools you can use anywhere, even in the middle of a spiral. Ready to keep going? Chapter 4. Quieting the noise. When the mind won't stop, it feels like someone left the radio on. Loud, fast, and full of worry. You try to argue with your thoughts, but they only talk louder. The goal isn't to win against your mind. The goal is to lower the volume. Overthinking is a stress response. So before we think differently, we need to calm the body, because a tense body creates a noisy mind. The 90-second reset, strong emotions usually rise, peak, and fall within about 90 seconds, if we don't keep feeding them with thoughts. When you feel overwhelmed, 1, sit still. 2, breathe slowly in through your nose for 4 seconds. 3, hold for 2. 4, exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. Repeat for 90 seconds. You're not forcing calm. You're letting your nervous system reset. Many spirals collapse right here. Grounding. Come back to the present. Overthinking lives in the future and the past. Grounding brings you back to now. Try the 5-4-3-2-1 method. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 slow breath. This tells your brain, we're safe, we're here, no emergency. Name it, don't fight it. Instead of saying, this is bad, I need to stop thinking. Say, my brain is spinning right now. That's okay. Acceptance reduces pressure. Pressure feeds spirals. Calm curiosity weakens them. Move the body, move the mind. A restless brain often needs motion. A short walk, stretching, light exercise. Movement releases chemicals that naturally reduce stress. 10 minutes can shift your entire state faster than another hour of analyzing. Create a worry window. Overthinkers try to solve every problem instantly. Instead, try scheduling worry. Pick a 15-minute daily worry time. When a thought appears, tell yourself, I'll think about that later, during my worry window. Most thoughts lose urgency by the time you get there. You trained your brain, not every thought deserves attention right now. The nighttime spiral. Many people overthink most in bed. If that happens, write this simple sentence. I will handle this tomorrow at 1. Simanawas. Your brain relaxes when it knows there's a plan. Then do a short breath cycle and return to rest. You're not abandoning the problem. You're postponing it to a clearer mind. Silence isn't the goal. Quieting the noise doesn't mean you will never have racing thoughts again. Everyone does. The goal is different. Thoughts come and you stay steady. You breathe. You ground yourself. You choose when and how to respond. The noise may still be there, but it no longer runs your life. In the next chapter, we'll dig deeper into breaking the habit of worry itself. How to retrain the brain so spirals happen less often, not just feel lighter when they show up. Chapter 5, Breaking the Worry Habit. Worry can feel automatic, like a reflex you didn't choose. Something happens and your mind instantly asks, what if this goes wrong? At first, worry feels helpful. It feels like planning, preparing, being responsible. But eventually you realize something important. You're not solving problems. You're rehearsing disasters. And the more you rehearse worry, the stronger it becomes. Worry is not just an emotion. It's a habit loop your brain has practiced. Good news, habits can be retrained. Step 1. Catch the first thought. Most spirals begin with one tiny thought. What if I said the wrong thing? What if they're upset? What if I fail? You don't have to stop it. Just notice it. Say quietly, this is the start of a worry spiral. Naming it pulls you out of automatic mode. You're no longer inside the worry, you're observing it. Step 2. Ask the right question instead of, what if this goes wrong? Ask, is this a problem I can act on right now? If yes, take one small step, send the message, look up the info, make the call. If no, it's not a problem, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty is handled with patience, not overthinking. Step 3. Practice worry. Later. Your brain wants every concern answered instantly, but you are allowed to wait. Say, I'll think about this during my worry window. Write it down. Release it. Most worries fade before the window arrives because they were never real problems to begin with. Step 4. Replace the loop. Habits weaken when they're replaced. When worry starts, do something simple but absorbing. Clean a small space, organize something, go for a walk. Listen to calming audio. Stretch. You're training your brain. When worry starts, we shift state. This is not avoidance. It's redirection. Step 5. Build tolerance for not knowing. The hardest truth for overthinkers. You can't control every outcome. And that's okay. Confidence isn't knowing everything. Confidence is believing you can handle whatever happens. Each time you sit with uncertainty, without rushing to fix it, you grow stronger. A reframing statement, when worry rises, repeat, right now nothing is actually happening. My brain is just predicting. Predictions are not reality, they're guesses. And you don't have to live your life according to guesses. The long game breaking the worry habit doesn't happen overnight, but with repetition, spirals start later and sooner feel less powerful. And slowly, worry becomes what it always should have been. Information, not a lifestyle. In the next chapter, we'll talk about overthinking in relationships. The replayed conversations, the constant second-guessing, the fear of saying the wrong thing. Chapter 6, Overthinking in Relationships. Overthinking becomes especially loud when other people are involved. A text message, a tone of voice, a pause, a look. Your brain instantly begins writing stories. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did I come across as weird, needy, cold, too much, not enough? Relationships trigger overthinking because they touch two deep fears. One, fear of rejection. Two, fear of misunderstanding. And when those fears activate, we stop experiencing the relationship and start analyzing it. The mind-reading trap. Overthinkers are talented mind readers. At least they believe they are. You notice a change in someone's behavior and assume they're upset. They must not care. I did something wrong. But most of the time, the explanation is simpler. They're tired, busy, distracted, preoccupied with their own problems. What feels personal is often not personal at all. A helpful reminder. You are not responsible for every shift in another person's mood. Replaying conversations. Have you ever replayed a conversation again and again, searching for the mistake? You review every sentence. You analyze your tone. You wonder how they interpreted your words. The problem isn't the conversation. It's the pressure you put on yourself to be perfect. Relationships don't require flawless communication. They require honest communication and a willingness to repair misunderstandings when they happen. From guessing to asking. Instead of guessing what someone feels, try something far simpler. Ask. Hey, I noticed you were quiet earlier. Are we okay? Most of the time, the answer clears the entire spiral. Clarity calms the brain. Guessing fuels it. Attachment and anxiety. If you've experienced inconsistency, abandonment, or emotional distance in the past, relationships may feel uncertain, and uncertainty triggers overthinking quickly. You may find yourself needing reassurance, fearfully checking messages, assuming the worst when communication slows. This isn't weakness, it's your nervous system protecting you from old pain. But healing means learning a new reality. Not every silence means danger. Sometimes silence means life is happening. Speak instead of suppress. Unexpressed feelings turn into overthinking. When something bothers you and you stay silent, your mind fills the silence with fear. Healthy communication sounds like, I felt a little unsure when that happened. I may be overthinking, but can you clarify? I care about this, so I wanted to talk. Calm, honest, direct, not accusing, not blaming, just sharing. Keep your identity. Overthinking can make you shapeshift to please others. You say yes when you want to say no. You change your opinions to avoid conflict. You try to become easy to love. But relationships thrive when both people stay themselves. You are not responsible for shrinking to keep the peace. A grounding reminder. The next time your mind spirals about someone, pause and say, I choose clarity, not guessing. Then either let it go or gently communicate. That balance, trusting yourself while staying open, builds healthier, calmer connections. In the next chapter, we'll explore overthinking at work and with money, the pressure to perform, the fear of failing, and the constant worry about doing enough. Chapter 7, Overthinking at Work and Money. Work and money are two of the biggest triggers for overthinking because they are tied to security, identity, and pride. At work, the mind whispers, am I doing enough? What if they realize I'm not as capable as they think? What if I make a mistake? With money, the questions get heavier. What if I never get ahead? What if something unexpected happens? What if I lose everything? These worries don't make you irresponsible. They show you care. But when worry becomes constant, it stops helping and starts draining you. Imposter syndrome. Many successful people feel like they are secretly faking it. They expect to be found out. Imposter syndrome says, everyone else belongs here. I'm the exception. But here's the truth. If you were truly unqualified, you wouldn't be where you are. Growth always feels uncomfortable. Feeling uncertain doesn't mean you're incapable. It means you're learning. Productivity versus perfection. Overthinkers often believe, if I just think longer, I'll avoid mistakes. But real progress comes from doing, adjusting, improving, not endless planning. Perfection delays success far more often than mistakes do. Aim for consistent effort, not flawless execution. Mistakes teach you faster than hesitation ever will. Money anxiety. Money is emotional. It represents safety, freedom, choices. So the mind jumps to extremes. I'll never have enough. One crisis could ruin me. I'm bad with money. Instead of spiraling, focus on control, not catastrophes. Small actions change everything. Track expenses, create a simple plan, build a small emergency cushion, ask for guidance when needed. Clarity replaces fear. The next best step rule. When overwhelmed at work or with finances, don't ask, how do I fix everything? Ask, what is the next best step? Send the email, finish the page, make the call. Set aside a small amount. Momentum beats overthinking every time. You are not your job. Many people tie their worth to performance. If I fail, I am a failure. But you are more than any role, paycheck, or title. Work is something you do, not who you are. When you separate identity from performance, mistakes feel manageable instead of catastrophic. A stabilizing truth. Say this when fear rises. I can learn, I can adapt, and I can recover. That sentence builds resilience, the opposite of overthinking. In the next chapter, we'll shift into daily life and routines. How simple habits can create a calmer mind without forcing it. Capacity to think clearly. Capacity to respond instead of react. Capacity to live your life without being dragged by spirals. Calm is built slowly, and you're building it day by day with every gentle choice. In the next chapter, we'll explore something deeper. How to change the way you see yourself so you no longer identify as an overthinker, but as someone who acts, adapts, and trusts themselves. Chapter 9, Becoming a Non-Overthinker. At some point, the tools, exercises, and habits we've discussed begin to do something subtle but powerful. They change the way you see yourself. For many years, you may have quietly carried this label. I'm an overthinker. That's just who I am. And when the mind gives itself a label, it starts acting in ways that match that label. Overthinkers overthink. Procrastinators delay. People who believe they always mess up. Stop trying. Identity is powerful. So instead of fighting your thoughts forever, we do something different. We rewrite the identity that creates them. From this is me to this is a habit. When spirals happen, most people say, I'm doing it again. I'm broken. I can't stop. But the truth is simpler. Overthinking isn't your personality. It's a habit your brain practiced. And anything practiced can be unpracticed. When you shift from, this is who I am, to this is something I'm learning to change, you move from stuck, capable, evidence-based confidence. Confidence doesn't grow because someone tells you to believe in yourself. It grows from evidence. Every time you make a decision sooner, interrupt a spiral, choose calm instead of panic, speak honestly instead of guessing, act without waiting for certainty, you collect proof. I can handle life. These tiny proofs stack up day after day until your brain begins to trust you again. That trust is the opposite of overthinking. Learning to fail safely. Overthinkers fear mistakes because they believe mistakes define them. But mistakes are simply information. Pilots don't quit when the plane drifts. They correct course. You can do the same. Instead of saying, I ruined it, say, that taught me something. Growth becomes less about perfection and more about adjustment. And the more you fail safely, the less terrifying failure becomes. Compassion over criticism. The inner critic loves harshness. Why are you like this? Other people don't struggle this much. You should be further by now. But harshness doesn't create discipline. It creates shame. And shame feeds overthinking. Compassion says, I'm doing my best with the tools I had, and now I'm learning new ones. Compassion doesn't excuse behavior. It supports change. Treat yourself the way you would treat someone you truly care about. Firm, honest, patient, kind. Building a new self-story. Begin telling yourself a new narrative. Not fantasy, but possibility. I'm someone who learns. I make thoughtful decisions. I don't need perfect certainty to move. I can calm myself. I bounce back. Repeat these not as magic affirmations, but as reminders of the direction you are growing. Identity is shaped by repetition. Relapses are normal. There will be days when old habits return. You'll spiral. You'll worry. You'll overanalyze. This doesn't mean you've failed. It means your brain revisited an old path because it was familiar. Simply notice, reset, and choose again. Progress is not a straight line. Healing is not a contest. Who you're becoming. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. You think clearly when stress appears. You decide faster, with calm, not fear. You don't chase every thought that arrives. You forgive yourself quicker. You live more in the moment than in your head. That person isn't someone else. That person is you, practicing new responses long enough for them to become natural. Overthinking may still whisper from time to time, but your identity will whisper louder. I know how to handle this. And that, more than any single technique, is what sets you free. Closing thoughts. You have learned that thoughts are not facts, that decisions don't require perfection, that calm can be practiced, and that worry is a habit, not fate. Most importantly, you've learned this. You are capable of training your mind. This journey isn't about becoming a different person. It's about returning to the part of you that was always steady, wise, and capable before fear took over. From here forward, your work is simple. Keep practicing, stay curious, be gentle with yourself. Every small step rewires the brain. Every calm moment builds the next one. And slowly, you stop living trapped inside your head and start living fully in your life again. Conclusion. A life beyond overthinking. If you've made it to this point, I want you to pause for a moment, take a breath. Really do it, because that breath represents something important. You didn't just listen, you stayed. You walked through difficult ideas, uncomfortable truths, and new habits. And that means something powerful. You are no longer passively living inside your thoughts. You're learning to lead them. Overthinking has probably been with you for a long time. It may have shaped decisions, relationships, and memories. But through this journey, you've seen what many people never realize. Overthinking isn't who you are. It's simply something your mind learned to do. And anything learned can be unlearned. You now have a toolkit, not just ideas you've learned to. Question thoughts instead of believing them, automatically make decisions without waiting for impossible certainty, interrupt spirals with breath, grounding in gentle awareness, replace worry with action. One step at a time, communicate honestly instead of guessing, build routines that support calm instead of chaos. Trust yourself again. These aren't theories, they're skills, and skills grow stronger the more you use them. You don't have to win against your mind. There may be days ahead when the noise creeps back in, a late night worry, a decision that feels too heavy, a moment where the old spiral pulls you in. That doesn't mean you've gone backwards, it means you're human. Progress isn't about never spiraling again. Progress is recognizing what's happening sooner and choosing a different response, faster, with more kindness toward yourself than before. That's growth. That's rewiring. Trust the version of you that acts life will still bring uncertainty. People will misunderstand sometimes. Plans will change. Outcomes won't always obey your expectations. But instead of freezing, you now have another option. Act gently, imperfectly, bravely, because clarity rarely comes before movement. It arrives because you moved. Every time you take a healthy risk, every time you decide instead of delay, every time you breathe instead of panic, you teach your brain, we can handle life, we're okay, and the brain eventually believes what experience repeats. A closing promise. Overthinking once tried to protect you. It tried to prepare you, shield you, warn you, but now you are ready for something different. Presence, trust, calm action, a life lived outside the loops of what if. Here's the promise I want you to carry forward. Your thoughts do not define you, your choices do, and you are capable of choosing with wisdom, compassion, and courage, even when the future feels uncertain. A final invitation. From this moment on, treat your mind like a loyal but anxious friend. Listen to it, thank it for trying, then gently guide it toward reality, toward truth, toward the next steady step. Practice the tools, return to the exercises, revisit these chapters whenever you need to, because the life you want, the calm, steady one, isn't waiting out there somewhere. It's being built inside each decision you make today. One breath, one choice, one quiet moment at a time. And slowly, beautifully, you stop overthinking your life and you begin living it. Author's note. My name is Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Abdullahi, and this book comes from a deeply personal place in my life. There were seasons when my thoughts controlled everything. I worried about what might go wrong, replayed conversations long after they ended, and second-guessed even simple decisions. Outwardly, I appeared fine. Inwardly, I felt trapped in my own mind. Nothing changed overnight. What helped was a slow collection of realizations, practical tools, and gentle lessons. I began to understand that the mind isn't the enemy. It is simply trying to protect us, sometimes too much. And when I learned to guide it instead of fight it, calm gradually returned. This audiobook is the guide I wish I had during those years. My hope is that it walks beside you the way those lessons walked beside me. A message to you. If overthinking has tired you, if you feel stuck inside your head, please hear this. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are learning. Real progress is quiet. It looks like pausing instead of panicking. It looks like choosing rest. It looks like taking one courageous step, even without knowing everything ahead. Be patient with yourself. Healing is not a race. You don't need perfection, only willingness. Thank you for trusting me enough to listen. It is an honor to share this journey with you. Acknowledgements to the people in my life who encouraged me, supported me, and reminded me to breathe when life felt heavy. I am grateful. To every listener who chose growth over fear, your courage inspired this work. And to those still finding their way, keep going. You are becoming stronger than you realize. Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Abdullahi.